Hello guys, welcome back to a new video. In today's video, we're going to be going through a two-step quarterly theory model. Super simple to follow, and we'll also be showing chart examples of this exact model playing out. But before we begin, you guys need to understand that every single concept and also this whole entire model revolves around comparing closely correlated assets to each other. So these are known as triads. I've got a list of the main triads that you want to be looking at on the screen here. Feel free to take a screenshot of this, and also keep in mind there are many more triads that you can be comparing to each other. However, these are just the main ones. So the first step of the model is sequential SMT SMT. This is always going to be the base of pretty much every single quarterly theory model. The sequential SMT is there to give you that directional bias. It's there to tell you when the markets want to reverse. And essentially all it is an SMT divergence between two consecutive quarters. So one asset creates a turtle soup, the other asset creates a failure swing. I do have a video about sequential SMT on my channel, so feel free to check that out. But the next concept we're going to be looking at is SMTFill. So SMTFill is a fair value gap that forms at the same time. One asset returns back to its gap, the other asset fails to return back to its gap. So this is another form of a cracking correlation. And like sequential SMT, this shows us when the strength or weakness within the markets. And we can utilize this to know when the markets are ready to expand. I do also have a long form video about SMTFill on my channel, so feel free to check that out if you haven't already. However, just those two concepts is all we're going to be using. That is literally it, sequential SMT plus SMTFill. So what we need to do now is blend those together. And we need to see a sequential SMT form. Then that first fair value gap that forms after the sequential SMT is where we're looking for our SMTFill entry. So essentially, the base of our setup is sequential SMT. The more we have, the better. For example, we can have a high time frame sequential SMT followed by a low time frame sequential SMT. And then we need to wait for that first fair value gap that forms after the sequential SMT we are viewing. And keep in mind it needs to be there on at least two closely correlated assets. And then we're looking for that SMTFill. As you can see in the example down below, the asset to the left created the turtle soup for the sequential SMT and then failed to return back to its fair value gap. The asset to the right created the failure swing for the sequential SMT and then it did return back to its fair value gap. And then if we combine that with the higher time frame order flow, the higher time frame drawn liquidity, we have a super simple two-step entry model. Let's jump into a few chart examples of this playing out in real time. Within this example, we're going to be comparing NQ to YM, and we're looking at the hourly time frame, which is the weekly cycle. So this means we need to see sequential SMT between two consecutive days of the week. And as you can see, the quarters are being marked out for me by my very own quarterly theory indicator, which will be linked below in the description. So as you can see, YM during Q2, Tuesday, run below Monday's low. And then if we take a look at NQ during Tuesday, you can see it failed to run below Monday's low. So YM is giving us that turtle soup, NQ is giving us that failure swing. And all we need to do now is wait for that first fair value gap to form after this sequential SMT. And there we go, you can see a fair value gap forms on both the assets. And this also formed very close after the sequential SMT. So this is great because it's showing that we get displacement very quickly after the sequential SMT has occurred, and we're also getting that fair value gap formation. So now let's see if one asset returns back to the gap and another fails. And there we go, that 10 AM candle on YM returned back to its gap, and the 10 AM candle for NQ failed to return back to its gap. And all you can do from here is you can scale down to a lower time frame and wait for price to reject out of the gap, look for a lower time frame entry model, or you can enter on the same time frame after the candle closes away from that fair value gap. So you can enter after this candle closes, placing your stop on the swing low inside of the fair value gap, and you can target a 2RR or whatever you would like to. In this case, we'll target a 2RR and we'll see if this plays out. A little bit choppy. And there we go. As you can see, took a while to get there, but it did still play out with very minimal drawdown as well. Within this next example, we're going to be comparing NQ to ES on the 15-minute time frame, which is the daily cycle. So this means we need to see sequential SMT between 2 consecutive daily quarters. In this example, Q4 and Q1, which is the PM session and Asia session. So as you can see, NQ has already given us that turtle soup running below Q4's lows, and then ES is giving us that failure swing, failing to run below Q4's lows. So if we let this play out now, we're waiting for that first fair value up to form. So you can see here, we did get a very small one on ES, but remember it needs to form on both the assets. So if one asset forms one here, and the other asset isn't forming the gap, then you need to continue to wait for both the assets to form the gap. No fair value up yet. And there we go. We've got a fair value up on both the assets. So if we mark that one out, and all we're doing now is waiting for one asset to return back to the gap and another asset to fail. There we go. We have our SMT-Fill. This is not the regular SMT-Fill. This is another variant of SMT-Fill, which I do speak about within the SMT-Fill video. This is a variant where one asset fills the gap completely and the other asset fails to fill the gap completely. So this is still an SMT-Fill. It's a cracking correlation. And what we can do now is, again, like I said, we can wait for price to reject out of the gap, enter as soon as that candle closes bullish, placing our stop on the swing low inside of the gap, and we can target some liquidity to the left. And let's see how this would play out. And there you go, for a 1-to-8 risk to reward ratio, and this is all in the space of under 3 hours, and price runs straight to 1-to-8 RR, targeting the liquidity to the left. Very clean trade, all from one sequential SMT, one SMT-Fill, entry after the candle closure out of the fair value gap, stop on the low inside of the fair value gap, targeting sell side liquidity. If you guys found this video useful and took value from it, I'd appreciate a like and a subscription, and also let me know in the comments down below which other trading or quarterly theory videos you would like to see from me. And don't forget to check out my social medias along with my premium membership group and also my very own quarterly theory indicator, all linked below in the description. Good luck and good trading.